Hi everyone, I'm Jackie Leventhal. I'm the Chief Brand and Content Officer here at 6th and I. Whether you're here with us in person or watching virtually from home, thank you for being with us tonight. I also see what I guess is a lot of 12 and under, so extra special welcome if you're out on a school night. Yeah. For anyone who's here for the first time, 6th and I is a nonprofit center for arts, entertainment, ideas, and Jewish life. And by attending our programs, you help fuel our mission to inspire more meaningful and fulfilling lives. So thank you for that. Molly Ye is someone we've long wanted to host, so it's very exciting to have her here tonight to celebrate the release of her new cookbook, Sweet Farm. In it, she shares 100 recipes that are a mix of nostalgic sweets and new creations drawn from Molly's Chinese and Jewish background, as well as her adopted Midwestern traditions. Molly has had a sweet tooth since she was a kid, so it's fitting that she married into a family who farms sugar beets in northern Minnesota. I'm a little embarrassed to admit that I didn't know what a sugar beet was, so if anyone is in that camp with me, they are big white root vegetables that are processed into table sugar. Since moving to the farm, Molly has immersed herself in the world of sugar as a baker, recipe developer, bakery owner, and as the Emmy-nominated star of the Food Network series, Girl Meets Farm. I spent a lot of time with Sweet Farm over the weekend, and I'm convinced that it's the antidote to 2025 so far. Flipping through the pages, it felt like the game Candyland that I'm sure many of us played as kids had morphed into a cookbook. Marzipan, tahini, pistachios, black sesame, and coconut are treated as the national treasures that they are, and Molly turns classic black and white cookies into a cookie salad, and most notably, she green lights dessert for breakfast. I made the salted chocolate chunk whole wheat snack cake and can safely say that it is worth the 2 precious eggs. In addition to Sweet Farm, Molly is also the author of the New York Times bestsellers Home is Where the Eggs Are and Molly on the Range. Outside the kitchen, she is a Juilliard-trained classical percussionist and has performed with ensembles around the world. Molly will be in conversation tonight with Carey Polis, a freelance food editor and consultant. Carey has spent her career working at the intersection of digital media and food, including at Bon Appetit, the James Beard Foundation, and the Huffington Post. She has a master's in food culture and communications from the University of Gastronomic Sciences in Italy, which sounds like the best grad school decision that anyone could make. Thank you all again for joining us. Please help me give Molly Ye and Carey Polis a warm welcome to 6th and I.
We're gonna do one of these. Come on in. I feel like I should duck down. Here, we gotta rotate.
Yeah, I was like, I want to make sure we see everyone. Okay.
Okay. This way. Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you.
Hi. Hi, everybody. Molly, so nice to be up here with you.
So nice to be up here with you.
I'd love to start just hearing a little bit about the genesis of this book. This is your 3rd cookbook, as Jackie mentioned, and I'd like to hear, how did this come to be?
I always knew that I wanted to write a sweets book. Sweets are my favorite food group. They are how I get the most creative satisfaction. And I married a sugar farmer, so it was inevitable. I also always knew that because it was so special to me, this concept, that I didn't want it to be my first book. I wanted to learn how to write cookbooks before I wrote this book, the book. And so in my first few books, there was one chapter that filled up the quickest, and it was the desserts chapter. And I had to cut down recipes from all of those books because I couldn't allow the desserts chapter to completely take over the entire book. But with this book, I didn't have to do that. I could just bake to my heart's desire and just put in all of the recipes that I have been dreaming of putting in a book for a really, really long time.
Cool. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about that process and what it looks like, because are these recipes that, as you said, like you've just been writing down in notebooks for years? Are they ones that you felt like, okay, here's my point of view of this book, and I need to make sure I have X number of this type of dessert recipe and X number of this type? I guess, like, yeah, how did it go from your head to a book?
I gave myself as much creative freedom as I possibly could and just led with my heart. I tried not to let the balance get in the way, and it's kind of obvious that a little bit, some of the chapters are much longer than other chapters.
I don't think it's that obvious, by the way. I didn't notice that.
Oh, cool, thanks. If you're a pie person, you notice that the pie chapter is like much smaller than the cake chapter.
Sounds like maybe that's personal preference.
It is personal preference. But yes, like a lot of these recipes are ones that I've been making for a really, really long time. Others I sort of stumbled upon in my research for this book. I did a lot of research on the farm and the region, and regional recipes are something that I was just so excited to be able to incorporate into this book. I'm talking about the salads chapter.
Oh, we're going to talk about it.
Oh, the salad. Okay, should I wait to talk about the salads chapter?
I mean, we can. I think at any point is fine.
It's my
to talk
favorite
about
chapter.
the salads.
And before writing this book, I was very intimately familiar with the cookie salad and the Snicker salad. But in diving into the world of sweet salads, I learned about fluffs. And I really dove into grape salad, which, like, thank you. East Grand Forks? Yeah. Thank you.
Wait, can we actually back up, like, for those, including myself, up until I started reading your book, who had never heard of a cookie salad before? Can we maybe like give?
I'm sorry.
Wait, maybe
I forgot where I am.
Yeah, can we take a survey? How many people here, raise your hand, know what a cookie salad is? Okay, I feel like that means how many people don't know what a cookie salad is. So like 50-50, are we saying? Okay.
So if you come to the Midwest and you open up a regional or a community or a church cookbook and you go to the chapter on salads, you will find that you don't need a vegetable to make a salad. You need mayonnaise or Cool Whip. And the cookie salad, the classic cookie salad is Keebler fudge stripe cookies, Jell-O vanilla instant pudding, canned mandarin oranges, Cool Whip. Oh, and you make the pudding with buttermilk, so you get a great tanginess. That's it. It's really good.
So I didn't know if you were like, yeah, okay, so your pause is like you are a fan, like you're pro that salad.
Yeah.
Okay,
like,
great.
Does it? Okay, sorry.
No
So, like,
judgment. I've never had it. I can't
just
judge.
think in your brain for a second that it isn't called a salad, okay? Think about it as if it was called a trifle. Like, it kind of makes sense, right? Or banana pudding, technically a cookie salad. So I have an overachiever's cookie salad in here where you make the homemade fudge stripes, you use a vanilla bean custard instead of the instant pudding, obviously a fresh whipped cream, and the fruit. And it's really, really good. And we actually use this recipe at Bernie's, my restaurant, as a way of using up any leftover cookies. Like, you don't have to use just the fudge stripes. I think that cookie salad is to cookies what French toast is to bread. It's a way of bringing to life stale cookies.
It's a good metaphor.
Yeah, thank you. Because they soak up the custard, they get a little soft, they get kind of cakey. It's good. Try it.
I wanna just highlight. You said you have an overachiever's cookie salad, but I just need to read the first line of your head note. It's on page 87, if anyone's holding the book right now. You actually refer to it as the calculus BC of cookie salads. Okay, good. I'm glad that several of you got that reference because I definitely did not get into calculus BC. It was way too hard, as potentially the salad is as well.
You were busy in AP English, I'm sure.
Truth. But
a class that I failed.
Good. You know, it's good to have compliments here. So yeah, I just appreciated that reference, and I think it sets the stage for like the level of difficulty maybe of this cookie salad.
Like, it's a project.
Yeah.
it's a project that can be done over the course of a couple of days, so you can kind of spread out the work. But it's for the mathletes.
Yeah.
I'm
You are a mathlete.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like baking and math it's
True.
that's where my brain is.
And then similarly, you also have an overachiever's candy. You have the classic candy bar salad and the classic cookie salad. So candy salad, cookie salad from the same family, just different main ingredient.
Candy bar salad, Snickers, Granny Smith apples, and then the pudding and the Cool Whip duo. But when you make it with homemade Snickers, it's really good. So those are the
Talk
two.
to me about homemade
Oh,
Snickers.
homemade Snickers are really fun, and there's a great shortcut to making nougat that doesn't involve having to take out the candy thermometer and boil sugar to a certain temperature. You can use marshmallow fluff in the filling and mix it with any sort of nut butter or tahini, and just the world is your Snicker oyster. Like, use any sort of nuts you want, any sort of chocolate, and then I kept the Granny Smith apples in there because the sourness of the apple with the sweetness of the candy bar is just really, really delightful. But so those were the two classics two of the classics that I wanted to show. I wanted to show like the church cookbook version and then the from scratch versions, just because in my daily regular life, like, I make the church cookbook version with the pudding because sometimes you just have to take a shortcut and you don't have time for calculus.
I never have time for calculus. And I've never had to use it since graduating high school. I know I'm dwelling on salads a lot, but I found this chapter like so fascinating and so illuminating as someone who's not from the Midwest, doesn't know a ton about Midwest food culture. So do you feel like the world of dessert salads has evolved in like the past generation or as you've done your research, or is it kind of, no, we have the classic and it's the classic and we stick with the classic?
One thing I particularly love about Midwestern cuisine is how it is preserved in its family recipe form, and how these recipes written on note cards are passed down from generation to generation, and our generation even is making the same version with the Jell-O instant pudding as 2 generations before. And I think that that's really cool. I love talking to people about their family recipes, and like, once you get on the subject of salads, that's where the real family stories start coming out. A recipe in the book that nobody will ever make is called ube fluff. And that is inspired by a very distant family member, her raspberry fluff that I had while I was researching this book that incorporated tapioca pudding. And I remember it was just the talk of that potluck that 4th of July. Everybody was talking about how Marguerite brought out her famous fluff, and it's so cool because it has tapioca pudding in it. And I had so much fun talking with her about it. And so I asked her for her recipe and got the tapioca pudding and was instantly reminded of bubble tea and boba.
Yep.
And that was a very nostalgic sensation for me, growing up and going to Chinatown with my dad and my sister on weekends and getting the purple bubble tea. And it was just such a fun treat for us. And that is what kind of sparked the genesis of that recipe, was that tapioca and Marguerite's fluff. And so I ordered some ube and did like an ube coconut fluffy pudding. And sorry, a fluff is a subset of dessert salads that doesn't have a solid thing like a cookie or a cake. It's Jell-O that you kind of like break up with a fork and you fold it with the fluffy stuff. So ube Jell-O, tapioca pudding, some coconut. It's marshmallow, mini marshmallows, and it's purple. It's really fun.
Does everyone know what ube is? If not, we can maybe explain that.
Ube is a purple vegetable. It's sort of like a purple sweet potato or purple yam, similar, and it has this really lovely earthy flavor that, if I close my eyes and don't even look at the color, I just think cookies and cream. Do you ever think cookies and cream when you eat ube?
I haven't, but it's because I can't not look at the color, which is this beautiful, vibrant purple.
It's so
Like,
beautiful. Yeah, I love anything that has like just like a great natural color. So that is a recipe that I'm proud of because 10 years ago, or like a generation ago, before being able to order ingredients on the internet super easily, like those flavors would not have entered a fluff. Like that wouldn't have happened. And so something that really brings me a lot of joy and brought me a lot of joy in writing this book was being able to celebrate the fact that at this point you can bring new flavors into these classic formats that at one point just simply wasn't possible with ingredient access and such like that. So.
I love that. I feel like one could talk about that forever, just the way that it's changed cooking and baking so much. And I think that's really clear in your book, where you have so many influences informing your desserts. And I'm wondering if we could actually talk about that a little bit, where you have a Chinese Jewish heritage, you're living in a Midwestern farm where there's Scandinavian roots. Like that's a lot of influence right there. Mm-hmm. How do you think about those flavors that, from different cultures that can work really well together, but also are kind of disparate at the same time? How does that inform your baking point of view?
I truly just did not hold back with my love for those nostalgic flavors like black sesame and matcha and tahini and almond and rosewater and cardamom. And yeah, I have a lot of fun playing with these different flavors and I love feeling uniquely qualified to combine some of these things, whether it's putting black sesame in a babka or matcha in an egg cream. And I've tried a lot of combinations that just don't work, but these are the flavors that I'm most familiar with, I'm most comfortable with, and that I want to celebrate. And I think it's really fun to find different formats to celebrate them in. And just kind of tinker. I'm such a tinkerer. And so having all of these ingredients just right next to me in my pantry and, having all these formats available to me is just, it's so much fun. It's so satisfying. And the red bean paste Newtons are coming to my brain as something that I had the most fun with, because every single time I see a fig Newton, I want it to be red bean paste. I'm seeing a big nod over there. So, why not, right? It was just this blank canvas for me that I had so much fun painting.
So the book is called Sweet Farm for a clear reason. How many years have you lived on your farm now?
Going on 13.
So if you can think about Molly before living on your farm and Molly now, how would you describe the difference in how you bake? I know I'm kind of taking you down.
There's a lot less bacon now.
Ah, interesting.
I remember I lived in Brooklyn at the height of maple bacon, and I remember just trying to put bacon in everything.
Including desserts.
Yeah, no, exactly. But I think when I get obsessed with flavors, they just stick with me. And so I am really happy to see that a lot of the flavors that I've that I fell in love with before the farm and that I'm still in love with are some of them are now starting to get a little popular. Like black sesame, when I was living in New York, there was not a lot of black sesame. If you wanted black sesame ice cream, you had to go to Chinatown. Mm-hmm. And now it's just everywhere on the internet. But I don't know, when I'm such a loyalist to these flavors that, I've definitely learned more about technique.
Sure.
And gotten better at recipe development. I worked in the bakery in Grand Forks, and now I've opened a bakery, and just through repetition of developing recipes, I've just become a lot more confident in my recipe development skills. And that was something that was really intentional that I wanted to do before starting Sweet Farm, because I wanted to do these flavors justice.
Okay. I'd love to talk a little bit more about sugar beets now. Jackie mentioned a little bit in the beginning. This was also, you have a really great kind of like 2 to 3 page spread in the book that really breaks down what a sugar beet is and why we use it, which was super helpful. Do you use sugar as your form of sugar in the kitchen?
When I go to the grocery store and I buy a sack of sugar, it's from sugar beets. And half of the country's sugar, I think, is from sugar beets. Thank you, Hillary. Hillary is our resident sugar beet expert. And so it kind of depends on what climate you're in. And of course, the other half comes from cane sugar. Okay. Sugar beets, so they're these big white root vegetables, and if you taste them raw, they taste like they taste very sweet. They taste kind of like if a white potato was sprinkled with granulated sugar, and then there's a very faint hint of that earthy, sort of dirty beet flavor that you get when you have a red beet. But if you were to just eat a sugar beet like an apple, you would kind of be like, all right, your sole purpose is getting distilled down into sugar.
You don't just want to munch on them, yeah.
What?
You don't just want to munch on it, it sounds like.
No, you don't. No, they're fine. There's one recipe in here that uses a grated sugar beet, but since most people don't have the access to that, I've also given the option for adding a grated red beet, and that one's better. I love beets and chocolate. I don't love beets in general, but beets with chocolate are really, really good. So it's a chocolate muffin with grated red beets or sugar beets. But.
Could you talk to us a little bit more about like the Molly universe? So I think probably a lot of people in the audience know you from your Food Network show. You live on a farm. This is your 3rd cookbook. You have 2 kids. Like, this already sounds like so much that you do and manage. Like, what does your day-to-day look like? What does your life like when it's not in front of a camera look like?
It really goes in seasons and it goes in phases. So I'm like a compartmentalizer. So when I'm filming, it's sort of all filming all the time. We'll film a season in about 3 weeks. And those are full days, which are challenging having young kids. But when we're done filming, then I take time off. And I have like weeks where I only work 1 or 2 days a week. And then I can, be driving them to skating or to dance or whatnot, and really focus on making Bernie's lunches and stuff like that. And then it's the same with the book. When the deadline is coming up, I have the flexibility. Like, we have the village. My in-laws are across the street. My mom is in town. We have a great nanny. We have that flexibility where if I need some more work hours during the week, I can do that. And then if I've like just turned in my manuscript and I have a few weeks to just chill out, I can do that too. Not that like spending a day with a 3-year-old is chilling out.
No.
But
we have kids very similar ages, and I think working is often easier. I also didn't mention you also have a restaurant, which I imagine also takes a significant amount of mental space, physical space, all of it. Like,
having a restaurant was really useful and fun when writing this book, because I could really combine the 2 projects and recipe test in the kitchen of Bernie's and then bring out my recipe tests to customers and get feedback in real time.
That's awesome.
It was really cool. Whereas if I was recipe testing at home, it was just me like stuffing Nick full of sugar. And there are the bakers at Bernie's are incredible, and so I could always bounce ideas off of them. And they actually thought of some ideas that ended up going in the book. So that was just working collaboratively. This is the first time that I've written a book while also having a restaurant, and so having that collaborative resource was really cool. I really liked that.
Can you talk a little bit about what your recipe testing process looks like and how, I feel like to use a very DC term, how a bill becomes a law? Like how you start with like, some sugar beets, and then eventually you have an incredible recipe.
Yeah. So I keep a running list of ideas or recipes that I want to make, and inspiration for that list comes from everywhere, from travels, from conversations, reading books, just like waking up in the middle of the night and thinking about sprinkles. Like,
Totally.
it's just, and anytime I think of an idea, I just write it down in my phone on my list. And then when it's time to start testing, I really love the research phase. So if I'm doing a recipe for like an old-fashioned donut, an old-fashioned cake donut, I like to read as many recipes for donuts as I possibly can from my cookbook library, online, just anywhere, magazines, anywhere, and then I'll test as many of them. I'll just cook through as many of them as I can, just to kind of get a sense of what the best version of that donut tastes like, and I'll kind of notice different things about different recipes. Like, okay, I like that this recipe used this flavor. I like this technique from this recipe, and I just kind of live in the world of donuts for a little while, and then I'll usually take a step back and kind of just like allow those to live in the space, and for me to kind of see what sticks in my brain, and also to dream about what my perfect version of this would look like, and also what story I want to tell with this recipe. And sometimes it's the story that comes first, sometimes it's the recipe that comes first. And I always want there to be a reason for a recipe to exist. If there are 100 old-fashioned cake donut recipes in the world, like I don't want to just duplicate that and add another one. I really want there to be a reason for this, whether it's a technique that I thought was really nifty or a specific flavor combination. So then I start a Google Doc. I write down version 1, which is always so exciting, like getting to that phase. And I will write down the ingredients list. I'll write down what I think the ingredient amounts will be. And then I kind of just do a few notes. I don't really do full directions at this point. And then I cook through it. And then I make notes of if, what worked and what didn't work. And then I'll make another note of what to do next time. So then I copy it, and then I paste it right above, and that's version 2. And then whatever is different about version 2, if I'm adding an extra teaspoon of vanilla or an extra quarter teaspoon of salt, then I add that in the ingredients list, and then I bold it so I know what's different about this version. And then I repeat the process. And then I'll keep going until it just reaches that correct flavor and texture that I'm looking for. I like to keep record of every single version of every single recipe that I've ever made, because a lot of times months will go by in between testing different versions, and sometimes I'll think of a new version, but then it actually turns out that 6 versions ago I actually tested that exact version. So I can go back into my notes and see what didn't work about that and why I decided to keep going. And then I have a recipe tester named Amy who lives in Brooklyn. And when I get the recipe to where I want it to be, I send it to Amy. She tests it, and then she might give it the thumbs up, or she might say it needs to change in this way, and then I test it again. And that's it.
That's it. Do you recall any recipes in this book that maybe one took the most time and really went through it, and then conversely, you nailed it immediately?
The one that took the most was an enriched dough that I use for the babka, the potato donuts, the chocolate swirly buns, like a few, it's kind of an all-purpose, super buttery, soft, and rich dough that I wanted. I'm such a textures person. I wanted it to be as moist and soft and fluffy as possible. I wanted it to last for a good few days on the counter and not dry out, as is my frustration with some doughs that are strictly butter-based. I also wanted it to be really easy and use as few of dishes as possible. So that eliminated this using a starter, like a tangjang.
Yep.
And I also recently got hooked on potato flour. So I knew I wanted to use that because that's such an easy, awesome way of infusing more moisture into a dough. If you add potato flour to a dough, it can hold, and then you pour in your liquids, it can hold so much more, it'll absorb so much more liquid than it would have if you were just using a bread flour or an all-purpose flour. If you use too much potato flour, it gets a little bit gummy. So finding those ratios of flours was something to tinker with, and then finding a ratio of fats took some tinkering. In addition to the butter, I add some coconut oil, and coconut oil is purely fat, whereas butter has a little bit of water in it. So that is, gonna be kind of your insurance policy against a dry dough. And then, we just tested it like dozens and dozens and dozens of times. And like the problem with having a base dough that goes with multiple different recipes is that anytime we would get to a new version of the dough, we would have to test all of the recipes with that dough to make sure that it worked. Because that's the kind of thing that keeps me up at night.
But you're happy with where you landed. It
Oh
sounds
yeah,
like, yeah.
so happy. And cardamom buns, that was another
happy.
one. Yeah. So happy.
Just really
Don't make
tired.
me make that dough again.
Yeah. And what about one that you got it? You had a vision and it worked.
The yellow cake cookie bars. Those are so fun. So my husband loves yellow cake with chocolate frosting for his birthday, and every year I would make it. I just tried to make it more dense and more moist, and eventually I realized that what I was going for was a squashed cake in cookie bar form. And the reason that the cookie bar version worked so quickly was because I had worked on other cookie bars recently, and so I was able to kind of swap out the full eggs for egg yolks and increase the vanilla, and then the frosting was just like a basic chocolate buttercream. It was kind of one of those things that seemed simple, but just by changing the shape, it created this whole new delightful sensation.
Nice. You've brought up texture multiple times, and I'm glad because I have something I'd like to read from your book, and it is about texture.
Uh-oh.
No, I mean, it's your words. Your head note for the chewy frosted tahini cookies is actually just a ranking of dessert textures that I will read.
Yeah. Okay.
1, chewy. 2, moist, dense, cakey. 3, buttery, flaky. 4, moist, fluffy, cakey. 5, bready. 6, ice creamy. 7, crumbly. 8, liquid/drinkable. 9, creamy, fruity, or creamy, cheesy. 10, crunchy. 11, saucy. 12, soaked. 13, airy.
That was one of the last head notes that I wrote.
First of all, this is only one of the 3 rankings. We'll continue on in a minute, but
I could only do lists at that point.
I'm particularly interested in your distinction between moist, dense cakey and moist, fluffy cakey.
So like
let's get into
that's
that.
like the cookie bar.
Okay.
Moist, dense, cakey is the cookie bar format, and then moist, fluffy, cakey is your typical layer cake.
Okay.
That's what that means.
And clearly dense has a slight edge. Buttery, flaky is in between, but that's not moist. That's something
Dense,
entirely different.
Always.
Okay.
Like the complete and total opposite of an angel food cake is what I want in my life at all times. Yeah.
Okay. I have made your tahini fudge cake in this book, which is excellent and definitely definitely chewy. Also, I would go for dense also.
Dense chewy.
Yeah,
Dense
dense
chewy.
chewy. Well, but you don't have dense chewy in here. You have chewy, and then
This
you
is
have.
the problem of having an editor sitting right next to you.
I don't think it's an oversight. I'm just saying, like, you have room for even more, clearly.
We will do a second version of this.
I mean, I think you could get to 50
Publish an addendum.
personally.
Ooh, I love this.
I'm going to also read your ranking of dessert flavors because I have a few questions here.
Okay.
Number 1 is a tie between tahini, halva, marzipan, and pistachio. A lot. Similar
Let's give it up
family,
for
but like I
tahini.
get it. I get that you can't, I got you. 2, all other nuts and seeds. 3, a tie between rose and chocolate. 4, other florals. 5, a 3-way tie between coconut, cardamom, and cinnamon. I get it. They work well together. 6, mint and other fresh herbs. 7, this is important because we'll get back to it, fruits that are cherry, plum, strawberry, peach, and blueberry. 8, in desserts, vegetables like sweet potato, squash, and corn. 9, citrus. 10, coffee. 11, other fruits except bananas, which are unranked because they are so gross. What's your issue with bananas?
They're gross. They were, when I was little, they were just a little bit gross. And then when I was about 8 or 9, my dad took me to the Blue Man Group. Who's seen the Blue Man Group? So in the Blue Man Group, they have this skit where they eat a bunch of Twinkies, like they catch them in their mouth, and then they swallow the Twinkies, and then the Twinkies are supposed to be like thrown up through their chest. And it's like so wacky. And I was sitting kind of close to the stage, and I got some of the Twinkie goo on my green striped velour shirt. And I thought, oh, that's fun, Twinkies. And it wasn't, it was banana puree. And it traumatized me. And we were downtown in Chicago, and I didn't have a change of clothes, and I walked around just with my arm just frozen the whole day because I didn't know what to do about this banana goo, and I don't know why I didn't say anything to my dad, but I just was so scared I don't know, it was gross.
I really unearthed something deeper than I realized. Cross off all the other banana questions. Okay. No, I actually really loved that head note. I think it's really informative and really fun, and I love that
Do you
voice throughout
agree?
your book. With banana, no. I like bananas fine. I had one this
What
morning.
about chewy?
Oh, I love chewy.
Okay.
Like not just in dessert, but also in like savory stuff. Like a good chewy noodle is great. Like I love any kind of mochi like texture. I love chewy.
Yeah, mochi cake
Yeah,
is so
I think
good.
chewy is in like U.S. food is a highly underrated texture. Yes, I know it's
Oh,
more
right.
common
It
in like
is totally
Chinese.
more common.
Like it's more
Uh-huh.
common in Chinese, for example. So
Like all Asian desserts
yeah,
is more common.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm
Chewy
with you on
forever.
chewy.
Yeah.
I mean,
Justice for
I
chewy.
could like I'm sure we could all nitpick. We're all gonna have a different order, but like I think you make a good case for most things.
What about flavors?
Okay, hold on.
That's okay. It's okay. It's fine. I'm looking for validation.
I mean, I don't love. Like, I wouldn't have rose as high as you do, but I respect. I know you feel deeply about it, and I think you should. Like, I'm not going to doubt you.
I mean, like,
yeah,
it's tied with chocolate.
yeah. Well, I would choose
can-
chocolate.
can
I
see
mean,
that.
we can take a survey here. Okay, who likes rose more than chocolate? Yeah. Who likes chocolate?
Let's hang out.
Who likes chocolate more? And who would put them as a tie also? Okay. So look, you know, we are all unique people with unique opinions. Yeah, I think tahini as number 1 is good. I agree. I think tahini is great. I mean, I'm not going to like really go through this. We can go to other questions, but yes, I think you put a good list and you defend it.
Thank you, editor Carey.
But one thing actually kind of related to your tone in this book, like you, I think in your book and as a human are this nice, friendly, and intelligent person. But what I really actually appreciated in your book is that you have this friendly tone throughout, but then you occasionally like really put your foot down when you meet it. Like on page 24, let me see what recipe this is. you are making, in your head note, you say, okay, you have these Earl Grey black and white cookies, sound delicious. But at the end, you say this very nicely, like you're not aggressive about it or anything, but I kind of imagine this. Like, before you make these, I need you to listen to me. Black and white cookies are inherently on a fast track to dryness. These thin, flat cakes will overbake in a matter of seconds. The ingredient list does everything in its power to set you up for moist success by including coconut oil, heavy cream, and sour cream, but you have to be the one to bring it home. Watch these like a hawk in your oven. Do not let the tops get brown, and remove them as they are just set on top. You've got this.
That's good.
This is a great note.
Can you record the audiobook for this?
Oh, that'd be so fun.
Because in my head, this was just like, this is just a pep talk.
And it totally
It's
is
just-
a pep talk.
but
it's
you
also,
just performed that really
like,
well.
But it's also like, it's a pep talk, but you have to listen to what you're saying, because you're right. Like, in a matter of seconds, it goes from like what could be good to a fail.
I mean, like, I don't want you wasting ingredients. I don't want you wasting your time. I don't want a few seconds to just ruin your afternoon of making these black and white cookies.
And I think you have that throughout, where you give this really like helpful cues, but you also are clear when you're like listen up on this step. Like, this is not a joke. This is not a joke, people. This is your baked good. So what I wanted to ask you is, I'd love to hear a few of your baking non-negotiables, like just like your rules of baking that you will not bend on.
Okay. I really want you to weigh your ingredients. Thank you. Like, honestly, if you can adjust to weighing your ingredients, that is going to instantly make everything better and more accurate and easier. Your life will be easier. You'll have less dishes. You'll spend less time searching for the measuring cups in your drawers. You won't have to account for humidity compacting your powdered sugar. You won't have to account for the fact that if you scoop 6 cups of flour, you will get 6 different amounts, even though they're in the same measuring cup. That's my biggest non-negotiable.
Okay, that's a good one. That's a big one.
But as far as like, you know, ingredient quality, I believe there are times when you are going to want to splurge on a really good butter for a recipe that only has like 3 or 4 other ingredients, like the big Cragley sugar cookies. That's something where that butter isn't hiding behind anything, and you want that extra flavor, and that's what that recipe was written. It was meant for grass-fed butter. But for other recipes where there's just a ton of other stuff in it and like extracts and flavoring agents and whatnot, like, it's okay to use the generic butter. And it's the same thing with eggs. I mean, eggs. Like, it's great in my personal life. Like, I don't, if I'm baking, I'm buying the generic inexpensive eggs, and I reserve the nicer eggs that we can find at the farmer's market for when I'm just having scrambled eggs. I'm just saying that, like, the best, fanciest ingredients, you know, if they're available to you, great, use them. But that's not one of my non-negotiables.
Okay.
Chocolate, another thing. Like, I think if it's a chocolate chip cookie where the chocolate is the focus, the better the chocolate, the better the cookie is going to be. But also, there's a time for a Hershey's milk chocolate bar. So I think that it all comes down to personal preference, and like, you should use the ingredients that you have access to and that you really love. And I just, so non-negotiables scare me, other than the weighing.
Other than the weighing. Okay, fair. I think I first heard of you, it was a long time ago, and it was when you had your funfetti cake go viral. Are we in 2009 here, 2011? Like, it does, I mean, whatever. It was a while.
2014.
14,
maybe?
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're in kind of like peak blog time for those who also follow the past decade of internet history. And your cake was everywhere. And this, at the time, like, you really became known for this recipe. I never actually made it, but I just remember seeing it everywhere. In your book here, you have a 2.0 version, which I think is like an amazing thing for people who have followed your career for over a decade now. Can you explain a little bit about how you could improve upon something that was already like pretty near perfect, it sounds like?
As my college timpani teacher once said,
Not that many people can start a sentence like that.
if it ain't broke, fix it anyway. No, I just felt like there were some things, I guess my tastes changed a little bit, and I wanted to just make a few tweaks on my first funfetti cake recipe. And I also wanted to customize it even further and provide the option to make your own sprinkles and to make your own rainbow chips for the frosting, and just kind of like really go all out if you happen to have a free weekend. Because I think it's fun because then you can customize the color palette. You can add extracts to the sprinkles if you wanted to do a rose water sprinkle. And I wanted to add cream cheese to the frosting, the original recipe. Sometimes I would eat it and I would think, this needs a better balance of sweetness. And adding a little bit of cream cheese to the frosting was that balance that it needed. It's not a full-on cream cheese frosting. It's just a touch of cream cheese to complement the butter and to just add that like delightful sourness. I added some baking soda, which that was something that we tested a lot, and I remember going back and forth on 1/4 and 1/8 teaspoons of baking soda, adding to that batter, because baking soda is great in that it deepens the flavor and it gives you a little bit more of a caramelization, and it also makes it rise more. But if you use too much, it will dry out the crumb, especially towards the edges. I lost a lot of sleep over a 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda in testing that recipe, and I actually couldn't tell you exactly the exact measurement that finally made it in there because I am too triggered to look at that recipe. But it's just a little bit bigger. It has a better balance of flavor. It's more customizable. You don't have to make the homemade sprinkles if you don't have the time. But it was, I don't know. It's like why I don't sleep at night. But I'm proud of it.
We are now going to move to some questions that we have from the audience. And we got several questions from some of the kids that are in the audience or watching virtually, so I wanted to start with that because they're really great questions. Is Abigail here? Hi.
Hi, Abigail.
Abigail wants to know, what is your favorite dish for you and Bernie to make together?
We love to frost cakes together. So any cake, she loves to crawl up onto her step stool and get her miniature offset spatula, and I get my big offset spatula, and we get the piping bags out, and she loves to pick the colors of the frosting. I have my big box of food coloring, and it's like better than the 96 box of Crayola crayons. And she gets to pick the colors, and then I immediately have to whisk away the other colors so that my 3-year-old doesn't get into them, because that could be really messy. And she picks out the sprinkles. And she recently got into sprinkle tweezers, which is really fun, so that she can be really precise.
What are sprinkle tweezers?
They are formerly eyebrow tweezers that have been cleaned, that we now use for precise placement of sprinkles. So it's like good for the fine motor skills, right?
Birdie, are you here, Birdie?
Hi, Birdie.
Birdie wants to know, what is your favorite ice cream flavor?
Pistachio. What's yours? That's my other favorite.
And Brittany, are you here? Maybe not.
Maybe she's in the camera.
Well, Brittany wants to know, what are your favorite kid-friendly, nutritious recipes?
My favorite kid-friendly nutritious recipes are any that involve pulverizing greens into oblivion and then dumping that into like a cake batter or a muffin batter or something where you just cannot taste them, but they lend their pretty green color and they lend the vitamins.
Lovely.
I have like a couple of cakes in here that do that, but those aren't really like nutritious.
Yeah.
But
You can-
other people's recipes
Yeah.
that use that is fun.
Shayna wants to know if you have anything on your menu for the upcoming Purim and Passover holidays.
Okay, so the trifecta of Purim, Pi Day, and St. Patrick's Day is coming up. So I'm doing a lunchbox for Bernie that is like green and incorporates a hand pie that is in the shape of a triangle, so it'll look like a giant hamantaschen. Passover. Are we supposed to be thinking about Passover already?
You've got a few more weeks. Like that's
We have
definitely
time,
after
right?
Purim. Yeah, yeah.
Wait, what? It's like
It's
like
in
April
mid-April.
11th.
Yeah, you've got more than a month.
That's like coming up.
Yeah, but you've got more than a month.
I just want matzah brie. I just want salami matzah brie all the way.
You have it together, salami and matzo brie.
What?
You have them together, salami and matzo brie.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you do savory matzo brie or okay? Ignore the salami
Yeah,
for a second.
yeah.
Obviously, that's savory. Do you dip your matzo brie in anything?
Do I dip the matzah first?
No, like once it's cooked,
Yeah.
like I just dip it in straight white sugar, which is maybe weird. Now that I'm admitting this to this full crowd, but I've done that since I was a kid. Hi, Mom. She's
so
an audience.
like, you dip?
Yeah, I make like a
fun dip?
normal, like fun dip. Yeah, like I make a normal matzo brie, like where you put it in water and
Yeah.
eggs and fry it in a pan,
Yeah.
and then I like cut off a piece and I just dip it in white sugar.
Like with your hands?
or a fork. Like depends on your mood.
What about cinnamon sugar?
Yeah, like not opposed to that.
Yeah.
But I don't do it.
Wow, and you don't sprinkle.
I
You don't
don't
get
sprinkle.
too much.
I dip.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I dip in ketchup.
Oh yeah, so you go savory. Okay.
Yeah. Wait, who's sweet matzo brie?
Okay, I got it. This
Who's
few.
savory matzo brie? Wait,
Okay.
Mia, you're sweet matzo? My cousin is here.
Ooh. Wait,
I
this
would try
is so
that.
fun hearing about what condiments or spices people use for their matzo brie. Also, who's never had matzo brie before? Yeah, fair. Okay, it's easy. You can make it.
So good. It's you. Yeah. So you soak your matzo brie in water first.
Yeah.
And then you add it to the egg. I know some people who just directly add it to the egg. And then have you tried the Melissa Clark version where you just add it to the pan and fry it first in oil and then add your eggs?
No.
For those who don't like matzo brie because of its mushiness, it's a good gateway brie.
Great term. Great term. Okay, I'm sorry for going on this tangent because I think we could
really
go on this for a
now
while.
that question got me excited about matzo brie and Passover.
The toppings / spices are clearly limitless here. Okay. Katrina wants to know. Katrina, are you here? You make almost everything homemade, which I so admire. However, as a mom of two, like you, sometimes I need a shortcut. What are some of your go-to shortcut ingredients in the kitchen?
Rotisserie chickens.
That's what my kids are eating for dinner tonight.
They're so good. No, I am so not opposed to getting the pre-shredded cheese, the pre-broken up broccoli florets. What else? Like instant oats. I don't know. One day I'll get back to grating cheese again, but in this season of my life, it's all the pre-grated stuff. What about you? You have little kids.
So my 5-year-old likes to grate cheese, and that makes me terrified because I'm like, I think you're gonna hurt yourself. But that's a new thing he's been working on.
Do you have like a little glove for him?
No, it's just dangerous, to be honest. I mean, I'm with him. Like, I don't leave the room.
No,
but
that would freak me out.
Yeah. So we. I mean, I definitely buy grated cheese too. But what are some of my shortcuts? I mean, I use a lot of just pantry sauces. I feel like with any if I just have chicken that I'm making, if you throw some za'atar on there, like the kids will eat za'atar, and it's so many flavors in that spice. So I feel like it's just about like 1 or 2 spices that can make a boring meal into something not boring.
I like that. I also do a lot of batch cooking. Like if I'm really committing to a new recipe or anything, like I'll do like a double or sometimes a triple batch to just keep it in the freezer. The freezer is my favorite shortcut.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
think.
frozen tortellini. I also love. I have a lot of frozen tortellini. No, I don't make it. I just buy it, obviously.
Still yum.
Yeah. Peyton, are you here, Peyton? Hello. What are 3 condiments you can't live without? This feels very, very apt.
QP mayo, all other mayo, and are we in Duke's Mayo land, or that's still more south? We are in.
You're like you're in the Mid-Atlantic, so we're not like it could go either way here. I think.
Really?
Like,
So you get both?
It's not like super Duke's heavy in terms of what you're going to find in the grocery
So
store,
there's
but you
like
can
no
find it.
like hard line where if you're like this far north, it's not Duke's, and like that's the most important geographical
I feel like you can
information that I
find
need to know.
Duke's, and others, please feel free to chime in. Like you can find Duke's in the grocery store, but it's still like mostly Hellman's around here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we're like getting into Duke's territory.
Like
It's,
lightly.
almost there. Okay.
Yeah.
We don't get Duke's, which is okay because I get QB. And then Chili Crisp is my third.
Yeah, that's another I mean, my kids don't eat it, but that's another if I have any leftovers, chili crisp.
Well, what's nice about the Chili Crisp is that I feel like it makes it easy to make a meal that everybody can eat without the Chili Crisp, and then you just bring the Chili Crisp to the table,
Yes.
and then suddenly it's an adult meal for you,
Yes.
and then a blander kids meal for the
Strong concur.
Sorry, more mild, not blander.
Peg, are you here, Peg? Okay, maybe virtually.
Is that Peg? Is there Peg? Hi, Peg.
Oh, hi. Looking back at your professional journey, what was the best decision you made for your career?
Marrying my husband. I'm serious. I'm like that. Like, he is the hardest worker I've ever known, and that work ethic inspired me to put in the work to my blog and to my books, and to just really reach my true potential, or reach a potential that I didn't ever think was possible. I think farmers are some of the hardest working people in this country, and I just am inspired by how many hours they put in and how much care they put into their land, and I had I had never seen somebody work so many hours. And when we first moved to Grand Forks, and we moved there right before our first harvest, and he pieced out, and I didn't see him for 3 months, and I didn't have friends yet. I just worked, and that those first few months in blogging were kind of just really pivotal for me for it, working on my photos and working on recipe development and getting it to a point where I could produce something that I was really proud of.
Lovely. Samantha from Connecticut wants to know if there are any viral social media food trends or tricks that you're loving.
Ooh, I want to try Dubai chocolate.
Oh, they sell it
haven't
at a place
tried it.
here, and it was $18, so I didn't buy it.
Oh, damn it. Somebody was telling me about, I was just in New York, and they have Dubai strawberries, where you get a bowl of strawberries, and then they put the kanafe and the pistachio and the chocolate on top, and that sounded so good.
That sounds really good. That sounds really good.
Right?
Dan, I guess there's probably maybe multiple Dans in the audience.
Hi, Dan.
Dan has a great question that is going to be hard for you.
Uh-oh.
A year without tahini or a year without sprinkles?
Just kill me now. Oh, yikes. I like sprinkles. Sorry, sprinkles. Ooh, sorry, sprinkles. The sprinkle
No,
thing
it's
is like
you had to make a
overblown.
choice.
Like I like sprinkles. I'm not obsessed with sprinkles.
Whoa, this is like a Molly truth bomb right here.
I really, really like sprinkles, but I love tahini. I just watched 10 Things I Hate About You, and she goes
great
like,
movie.
I like my Prada backpack, but I love my Chanel whatever. I don't know. I like sprinkles, but I love tahini.
Good point.
Sorry.
David wants to know, being raised by an Asian dad and a Jewish mom, what dish from each culture is your absolute favorite?
Matzo ball soup, or matzo brie, Thai, and then probably pot stickers.
What do you like in your pot stickers?
Chicken and scallions.
Okay.
Yeah, we grew up making chicken pot stickers.
Nice.
Yeah. With like a really doughy wrapper. Really
yeah.
thick doughy wrapper.
Did you make your own dough or did you get the?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
Well, there were some restaurants near where we lived that would make theirs, and they had really thick dumpling wrappers.
Christina wants to know, hello, is there a recipe you wanted to include in Sweet Parm but couldn't get quite right?
Yes. So there was a salad that a friend of mine was talking about that was a wild rice sweet dessert salad. And I love wild rice so much. It is something that Minnesota does beautifully. And it seems like everybody in Minnesota knows somebody who harvests wild rice. And so you usually have a wild rice hookup like very nearby. And when it's fresh, it's just nutty and it cooks really quickly. It's so delicious. Anyway, I love wild rice, and especially in a sweet application. And wild rice with cherries is delicious because that sourness with the nuttiness and like that dark syrupiness of the cherries is so good. And so we went through a few versions of a fluffy wild rice salad with fresh cherries, and we tried to incorporate sweetened condensed milk because we thought that would be really good. And the flavor, that first test, the flavor was amazing. But the texture just kind of was this gooey, like slimy type of thing that wasn't going to work. And we tested like multiple different versions, but ultimately we just ran out of time because the idea came about like right at the end of my deadline and when it was going to be due, and I wasn't going to postpone the deadline just for the wild rice salad. So that'll be you know
The next book.
the next book. Yeah, sure.
Okay, I'm going to do one more question from the audience, and then I have a couple of lightning round ones at the end.
Okay.
Monica wants to know, hi, Monica. What are your favorite recipes for a brunch party?
Ooh, from Sweet Farm or just in general?
I think we can go both ways here.
I like anything that you can make the night before and then sleep in the next day and just pop in the oven. Gotta have a swirly bun at a brunch party. The ones in here are really chocolatey, and you pour a simple syrup over at the end when they're still hot. And the simple syrup is the fun part because you can add vanilla bean, you can add rose water if that's what you're feeling, you can add orange blossom water. Like, I just like having fun with that element of it because you can wake up the morning of and just decide. And then like savory wise, we get a lot of leftover croissants from Bernie's. So I like to make a croissant strata with usually prosciutto, whatever veggies I have on hand, lots of cheese, eggs. I just planned that strata for Bernie's birthday in a couple of weeks, but now it's just now occurring to me that I should not use
Maybe
all
you need
those
a plan
eggs.
B. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you can
Maybe
figure that
baked
out.
oatmeal. Baked oatmeal.
Okay, great.
That's a good overnight one that doesn't involve as many eggs. Okay.
Okay, I have some lightning questions for you. I think the first one we've already covered, but I'll just do it for funsies anyway.
Tahini.
Yeah. Okay, you got. Okay, the question was halva or tahini.
Did we just play Jeopardy?
Yeah.
Oh, halva or tahini.
Yeah, like you have to choose
Oh.
one. Sorry, this is the rule. Yeah.
Well, but like I can use sugar. Like I can add sugar to the tahini.
Yeah, it's a like don't think too hard. Just like halva or tahini, go.
Wait,
like,
but am I
which do you
like eating
choose?
this right now?
You're asking too many questions. Just like if you had to choose, I guess we should go for like if you had to choose one for the rest of your life.
Okay.
To eat. Well, tahini you don't just eat on it. Maybe you eat it on its own, but like usually you mix it with stuff.
Like it's so easy to make halva if you have tahini.
This
and
is true.
sugar.
There's a flaw in the question.
So,
Okay. So you would say tahini. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Black and white cookie or babka?
Babka.
Okay. Sprinkles or chocolate chips?
Chocolate chips.
Stop the presses. Do you prefer eating dessert in the daytime or dessert at night?
Daytime.
Yeah, agree.
Better for the glucose spikes. Yeah. Forget I said that.
Spring form or bunt?
Ew.
Like as a pan?
I hate a bundt.
Why? What's wrong with a bundt?
I'll eat a bun cake that is successful, but I've been just burned too many times, figuratively, by a bundt that sticks to the pan.
Wow.
And it's just like they're not conducive to frosting. You can't layer them. You can't.
Okay. Wow. Noted.
I mean, like springform is fine. It serves a purpose.
Okay. I mean, I feel like I've been burned by springform personally.
How come?
Like, if you don't seal it tight enough, then like the sauce can get out, and then your oven gets all sticky and burny, and
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they both kind of.
Okay. Both are thumbs down
Yeah.
apparently. Hot dish or cookie salad? Ooh.
Okay, hot dish.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a book about sweets, y'all.
But this is just like you have to eat savory food in your life too.
That's true.
Muffin or scone?
Scone.
Huh. I feel like that was the underdog pick there.
You could have a muffin-shaped scone.
Okay. I guess. Like you could make a scone in a muffin.
So if you, okay, so what's the number one issue with scone?
Dryness. Yeah.
Ding. And that is because you like need a lot of dry ingredients so that it holds its nice shape.
Okay.
Right? If you reduce the dry ingredients and you have a looser scone batter dough type of thing, but you that wouldn't work just baking it freeform. But if you bake it in a muffin tin, then it holds its shape. You get the buttery, crumbly quality of a scone. You get caramelized edges, and it's moister.
Okay.
Scuff it.
Okay. Last question. It was going to be about bananas, but that's too mean. So we'll go for something a little lot more obvious.
I don't know.
Brownie or cookie?
Oh.
Should we get another survey? Okay. Who says brownie? And who says cookie? Okay. Cookie's clear audience favorite. No pressure.
I was gonna say cookie.
Okay. She said it very quietly. If you couldn't hear her. She said cookie.
But like, okay, in the defense of the brownie, I like a chewy brownie like cookie.
Right. Then we're getting
That's
back
the
to the texture
Midwesterner in me
conversation.
just wanting to please everybody.
Molly, thank you so much. This was so fun.
Thank
Everyone,
you,
thank you
Carey.
so much.
Thank
You're a great
you.
crowd.
Thank you.
Thank you so much to Molly Ye and Carey Polis, and thank you all for joining us. If you can please stay seated while our guests make their way backstage.